Hi everybody, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBabeCrochet.com, and today I am going to show you how to crochet the Aran circular rug. I'll put a better picture of this right here so that you can see how lovely this is. This uses the Thick and Quick yarn by Lion Brand called Wool Ease, and I'll put all that information both for the pattern availability, the yarn availability, and everything right in those video descriptions below. If you haven't been to my channel before, please hit that subscribe button, and if you could hit the thumbs up and notification bell, that way you won't miss anything coming your way. Alright, well let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using Lion Brand Yarns Wool Ease Thick and Quick. I have the large scans, and I'm going to need 6 of these, and each of these are 12 ounces or 212 yards each. This is a super bulky or number 6 size yarn. Now, Lion Brand also makes the smaller scans, which is half of this or 6 ounces each. You would obviously need twice as many or 12 of those if that's what you have available. I'm also recommending that you have a size N or 15 or 10.00 millimeter crochet hook, and as always, a pair of sharp scissors and a yarn needle will always come in handy. To begin, we start with our slip knot, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are going to form a circle by working a slip stitch in that first chain. Now for row, or actually round 1, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work 7 single crochets right in the middle of our circle. And I'm also going to be working around the loose thread so I don't have to worry about hiding it later. So we're going to work 7 single crochets in that circle. After working those 7 single crochets, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the very first single crochet of the round, chain 1, and for round 2 we're going to work 2 single crochets in each stitch around. At the end of this round you should have a total of 14 single crochets. One thing I wanted to point out as you work around is this may look like a stitch, but it is actually the join. Make sure that you only have 14 single crochets around, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch. Just like this is a join, it is not an actual stitch. For round number 3, it's a repeat of round 2, which is chain 1, and starting in the same place where we joined, work 2 single crochets in that first stitch and 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around. At the end of this round you should have a total of 28 single crochets. At the end of round 3 we join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and we're going to chain 2. Starting round number 4, we're going to double crochet in this first stitch and then work 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So that is going to be the repeat all the way around. 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. At the end of round 4, we join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and you should have a total of 42 double crochets. And yes, it is going to be a little bit wavy. This is normal, have no fear. This will all settle out as we do the following rounds. Okay, now for round 5, we're going to chain 2, and this is the round that begins the braided cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare for a treble crochet. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. This will be a good time for me to show you how to slow down this video. If I'm going too fast for you, I apologize, but you can control this. There's a little icon in the bottom right here. It's on this side for the left-hand videos. It looks like a little gear. If you click on that, you can actually select the playback speed and slow this down if you have need, or if you get bored, you can always speed me up. If you're working on a phone, there are 3 vertical dots here. It'll be over on this side for the left-handed version. And if you click on that, it will also bring up a playback speed where you can select a slower speed should you have need. Now, after working those 2 front post trebles, working in front of them, we go back and work front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And then we front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Oops, something got away from me. It's a little more challenging working with the larger hooks and the larger yarn. So make sure that you take frequent breaks from this. It's not quite as easy as working with worsted weight or DK weight yarn. Okay, so this completes the 6 stitch braided cable portion. So what we're going to do with this round is in between the last stitch and the next stitch, we're actually going to work 3 double crochets in that space between the stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then we go back to working the braided cable stitch for the next 6 stitches. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of the last 2 stitches, we front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And then front post treble in the next 2 stitches. It is a 6 stitch repeat when we're working the braided cable stitch. Okay, so then after that, 3 double crochets in between the last stitch and the next stitch. And that's just worked right between the stitches, not around them or in the tops, just in between those stitches, just like that. So let's go ahead and pause and take a look. So we have 2 braided cables begun. After working these all the way around, you actually have 7, not 5, you have 7 of these cables, and you should have 63 stitches total, including, the 6 stitches of each braided cable and the 3 double crochets in between. So 63 stitches total. We're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. We are going to turn with the back side facing, and I just want to show you, yes, it is very ripply at this point. This is going to settle out as we work the following rounds. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and when we come to the 6 stitches of the braided cable, we're going to work the back side or round 2 of the braided cable, which we will skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to work back post double crochet over the next 2 stitches. This is very similar to working row 1 of the braided cable. It's just that you're working back post treble crochets instead. After working those back post treble crochets, we're going to work back post treble crochets in these next 2 stitches, but we're going to work in front of these stitches as if we're with the front side facing. So in other words, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to reach around and work the back post stitches around those 2 stitches that were skipped. This is something that's easier to be shown than to explain with words. After we do those two, and then we simply do the next two in back post treble crochets. One and two. Okay, so that's the way you do that row, or that round rather, and then I'll do that for you again. Double crochet rather, in the next 3 stitches, 1 in each stitch. It's 2 and 3, and then as we come to the braided part again, skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these last 2 stitches as seamed from the front side. We're gonna show you how we work around these 2 stitches that were skipped. That's 1 and 2, and then back post treble in the next 2 stitches. So go ahead and work this all the way around. It doesn't look like much from this side, but when you turn the front side, you start to see how these braided cables are coming together. At the end of round 6, we joined with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and let's turn. And this is what we have after 6 rounds. Okay, now we're going to begin round 7 with a chain 2. We have the front side facing, and we are going to work the 6 stitches of that braided cable. Skip these 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these last 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2, or the 2 stitches rather that we skipped. Okay, like that. Then we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. These are always on the post stitches. Okay, now we're going to start increasing, and this is what we're going to do each round. We're going to be increasing in the first stitch, or at least for the next few rounds. We're going to work 2 double crochets in that first double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in the next 2. So 1 there and 1 there, and that's going to be the repeat all the way around. At the end of round 7, we join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, which was one of those first front post treble crochets of the braid. Slip stitch, and let's go ahead and take a look at where we are now. This is what you should have. It will come together a little bit more as we do more rounds. So let's go ahead and turn with the back side facing, chain 2, and now we're going to work some more of these increases. We're going to work 2 double crochets in the first double crochet, and then 1 in each of the next 3. 1. Oops, let's do that one again. 2 and 3. Now we're working row 2 with the back side facing of the braided cable, and we do just like we did 2 rows down. Skip 2 stitches and work back post treble crochets in the next 2 stitches, and the other one right back there. Now working in front of these as seen from the front side. Okay, we're going to come around and you work this stitch and then this stitch. And you can see them from this side, coming in from the back side. Okay. That's one. A little bit trickier, but definitely doable. Get that last loop. There we go. And now the next thing we do is work the next 2 stitches back post treble, which are right here. Go ahead and do both of those. 1 and 2, and that is the repeat all the way around. 2 double crochets in the first double crochet of the double crochet section, then 1 in each of the next 3, and then work the 6 stitches of the braided cable. At the end of this round, join with a slip stitch to that first double crochet of the round. And let's go ahead and turn and take a look at what the braid looks like now. It looks much more like a braid than it did a few rows back. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to row number 9. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to work row 1 of the braided cable, which is with the front side facing. Skip 2 stitches, front post treble the next 2 stitches, just like we did 2 rows down. Working in front of these 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And then we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Hopefully by now you understand the braided cable stitch. Okay, now we're going to also work the double crochets with some increases again. We're going to work 2 double crochets in that first double crochet, and then 1 in each of the next 4 double crochets. So just one in each of those. And that is going to be your repeat all the way around, the 6 stitches of the braided cable, and then 2 double crochets, and then 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. At the end of round 9, we join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. And let's take a look at where our braid has grown to at this point. Okay, now it's time for us to turn and to start round number 10. And very similar to row number 8, with the exception of additional double crochets, we chain 2, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in that first stitch. And you guessed it, 1 in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, let's go ahead and pull it all the way through, 4, and 5. Go ahead and take a look at that. So we'll have a total of 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double crochets in between those braided cables. And with the backside facing, we're working again, it's round 2 of the braided cable. Skip 2 and back post treble crochet the next 2 stitches. I know these are not the easiest to see, but they're on the other side there. Working in front of the last 2 stitches as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble in this stitch, and then in this stitch, it's looking at it from this side, this stitch, and then this stitch coming in the back door for these back post treble crochets. And the next one right there. And in the next 2 stitches we work 2 more back post treble crochets, and that is your repeat all the way around. 2 double crochets in this double crochet, 1 in each of the next 5, and then work the back post treble crochets over that braided cable. At the end of row number 10, we join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, and now we're going to turn, and I'll give you another view. My softbox is getting a little bit small. I will be showing you larger views once the rug gets much larger, but basically this braided cable just continues to grow. We have 2 more rounds to go, round 11 and 12. So let's go ahead and start round 11. We chain 2, and just like 2 rounds previously, we work the braided cable, skip 2. This is with the front side facing. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these last 2 stitches, we front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And then we front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Now working in the double crochet section in between the braided cables, just like we've done before. 2 double crochets in that first stitch, and then 1 double crochet in each of the remaining 6 stitches. I'll go ahead and do these with you. Do be sure that as you work on this project, I think I may have said this before, but do make sure that you take breaks often, because working this thicker yarn and with the extremely large crochet hook can put a lot of stress on the muscles in your hands and your arms. So make sure you get up and walk around and take breaks so that you don't, hurt yourself, basically. Okay, so in this section we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochets total. So that is your repeat all the way around round 11, working those 6 braided cable stitches, and then the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's right, 8 double crochets. At the end of round 11, we join with a slip stitch in that first stitch of the round. After joining, I've gone ahead and turned to start round number 12. Now round number 12 is going to be adding a lot more stitches to this round. We're preparing for the next 2 rounds following that. So for round 12, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work, starting in the first double crochet, we're going to work 2 double crochets in that first double crochet, 1 in the next. We're going to do this a total of 4 times. So we're going to do that again. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 in the next. So that's 2 repeats. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 in the next. So that's 3 repeats. And then one more time, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next. So let's take a pause and look at this. So the double crochet section will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches. So after working those 12 double crochets, we come to the 6 stitches that make up that braided cable. We are going to work 6 back post double crochets, not treble, but double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one more, 6. So we have 6 back post double crochets over that braided cable. So that is your repeat all the way around. At the end of row 12, we join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. And let's go ahead and turn our work. And you can see how much nicer this braided cable round looks now that we've worked that last round. Okay, now we're ready to work something called the low front ridge, round 1. This is also round 13 in the pattern. And for this round, we're going to chain 1, and starting in the first stitch, we're going to work only in the front loop, and we're going to work a slip stitch in each stitch around. Slip, stitch, just like so. You want to be careful though, as you work this stitch, that you don't work it too tightly. Make sure that you have just a normal tension as you go around. So go ahead and work those slip stitches in the front loop only, all the way around. At the end of the round, we join with a slip stitch just under where that first slip stitch was worked. And we're going to chain 1, and we are going to turn our work with the back side facing. And we are now going to work in the remaining loop. Let me show you where this is, which are right here. These are the slip stitches, and this is the remaining loop, and we're going to start with this one right here. And we are going to work a single crochet in each of these loops all the way around. I'm going to work a few of these for you, and I will show you the effect on the front side. Okay, so let's turn, and with the front side facing, you're going to have the nice raised edge, okay, or a ridge. That's why this is called the low front ridge. That will be shown all the way around, and it's going to be a really nice frame for the next stitch that we worked following this. So go ahead and work single crochets all the way around in the remaining loop. At the end of round 14, we join with a slip stitch in the first stitch of the round. Now we are going to chain 1, and we're going to turn the rug so that the front side is facing. And let's go ahead. Again, this is really too big for the space, but I want you to see the nice edging that has been completed from the last 2 rounds. Okay, now starting on row 15, we're going to work row 1 of one of my favorite stitches called the cable stitch. But before I begin, I just wanted to state that for those of you who are already familiar with this stitch, stay tuned, because row number 2 of the cable stitch, which will be row 16 in this pattern, will be worked very differently with additional stitches. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we begin. So we're going to start with, this is the first row of the cable stitch, which again is row 15 in this pattern. And this is the way it's worked. We start with a single crochet in that first stitch, chain 3, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet in the next stitch. And this is where it gets interesting. We're going to turn our work to work in the chains. So we work 1 single crochet in each of these 3 chains. After we do that, we work a slip stitch in that first single crochet that we worked. Now we're going to turn back and go ahead and bring the yarn to the back side of your work. And then in those 2 stitches that were skipped, we're going to work single crochets, one in each of those stitches. And that completes our first cable. Okay, after completing that first cable, let's do it again. Chain 3. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then single crochet in the next stitch. Turn to work in the chains, 1 single crochet in each of the 3 chains. So that's 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch in that next stitch. We're going to turn back, bring the yarn to the back side, and then single crochet in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Now you may need to actually pull the cable down in front so that you can see those 2 spaces. There we go, 1 and 2. Now we have 2 cables completed. I'm going to do one more with you, and then you'll be doing this all the way around. Chain 3, skip 2 stitches, single crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to turn to work in the chains, 1 single crochet in each chain, and then a slip stitch in the next stitch, which is going to be a single crochet. Now we're going to turn back to the front and bring the yarn to the back side of your work. This just makes it a lot easier than flipping the entire thing back and forth. If you pull the cable down, you'll see those 2 stitches that we skipped. Go ahead and work a single crochet in each of those stitches. And so this is what it would look like once you have 3. So go ahead and work this all the way around. Now that we've come to the end of the round, you should have a total of 42 of these cables. So do make sure that you have enough of those, because it's very important for the stitch count going forward. Now we're going to just join to the space right here with a slip stitch, and we are going to chain 1, and then we are going to turn our work to have the back side facing. Now if you've worked these stitches with me before, there's going to be one difference, like I mentioned at the beginning of the last round. Usually we work 2 stitches in this stitch and then 1 in the next, working a total of 3 single crochets behind each cable. Now that's when we're working them vertically in straight lines across. Since we're working in the round, we're going to be needing to add extra stitches, and we're going to go ahead and do that this round by working 2 single crochets in each single crochet that is behind each cable. So I'll go ahead and show you a couple of these. So you work 2 single crochets in this stitch, and then you need to pull back the cable a little bit to reveal the next single crochet, and 2 more stitches, so that you have a total of 4 stitches behind each cable. This is again very important. So I'll do a few more of these. So 2 stitches here, and then pull back a little bit so that you can see that single crochet, and 2 single crochets in that stitch. And we're just going to continue this all the way around for this round. So don't forget 2 stitches even in that second stitch. Okay. At the end of round 16, we join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet of the round. You should have 168 single crochets all the way around. Now we are going to turn, and for rounds 17 and 18, we are going to work the low front ridge just like we did down here for 2 rows or rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with round number 17. We are simply going to work a slip stitch after we chain that 1. We're going to work a slip stitch working in the front loop only of each stitch around, and then just work a slip stitch all the way in those 168 front loops. At the end of round 17, working under that first slip stitch, just go ahead and join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. Go ahead and chain 1, turn, and now we're going to be working in the remaining loops all the way around. So go ahead and start in that first stitch, work single crochets in each of those remaining loops all the way around, just like we did a few rows back. At the end of round 17, we join with a slip stitch in the first stitch of the round, and now we're going to turn. And let me just give you a little view of the stitches that we've done so far. And we've just finished, again, the second set of the low front ridge, rows 17 and 18. Okay, now we are going to begin a round with double crochets. I'm going to start with a chain 2, 1, 2, and starting in the first single crochet, which is here. The stitch here is actually not a stitch, but that's the join, so make sure that we don't add stitches in here. We're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, so that's 1, 2, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1, 2, and that's going to be the repeat all the way around. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches like this, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2 together. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 19, you should have 224 double crochets. That's not including the chain 1. So now we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. We're not going to turn, but we're going to continue on to working the next round, which is round number 20, and we're going to work round 1 of the Celtic weave. Okay, I wanted to also show you that after working round 19, it's not unusual, actually it's preferable if you have a lot of ripple-y effect here. And I'll just quickly explain that this is due to the increases that we did along that last round. But the reason that I have you put in so many extra stitches here is we're going to be working the next 4 rounds without any increases, and I promise that this will all settle out after we work the next 4 rounds. Okay, so let's go ahead and start round number 20, and we're going to work round 1 of the Celtic weave. We're going to start with the chain 3. Now, for those of you who've worked the Celtic weave across the row before, this is worked slightly differently because we are connecting the stitches in slightly differently. So we're going to start off by skipping 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we begin the Celtic weave. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and working in front of the last 2 stitches, we are going to front post treble crochet in these 2 stitches were the 2 stitches closest to the stitches we just worked in. First we work in this stitch, or we could say this is the 3rd stitch that was skipped, and then we work in the 4th stitch that was skipped. You'll understand why we did this once we come all the way around and we work these last 2 stitches and connect them in. It just makes it a lot easier and more seamless to do it this way. Okay, so now for the rest of this round, we are going to skip 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, Working in front of the last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble crochet in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. I'll do this for you one more time. If you need additional stitch support, I actually have a video on my channel which deals with Celtic weave in the round. Should you need extra support, I will put that video link in the video description below. Okay, so simply skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of the last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that were skipped. And this is a large stitch. This rug is going to get very significantly larger with each round that you do. So this is what you're going to do all the way around. Now I've worked this all the way around, and I have 4 more stitches to work, and I wanted to do this very carefully so that you can see. This is the turning chain. We are not going to work in this stitch, but we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left, and 3 and 4 are the first 2 stitches that we skipped at the beginning of this round. So we are going to continue to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're not going to work in this, so we're going to ignore that turning chain, and then front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Okay, now working in front of the last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, just like we've been doing all the way around the rug. And this way, when you connect in, it's going to be a seamless connection. Okay, so now we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. And once we do that, you can see that you really do not see the turning chain. Now you will on the back side, but you won't on the front side. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn the entire project. Okay, now we're ready to begin round 21 of the Celtic weave. I've gone ahead and chained 3. This is with the wrong side or the back side facing. And the first thing we're going to do is skip the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to begin working in the next 2 stitches, and they're going to be leaning towards you, or towards the right, if you're working the right-handed version. Okay, so we work 2 or 1 back post treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these stitches, as seen from the front side, we're going to work these 2 stitches, and this is probably the most challenging part of this particular stitch. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to come around on the back side, and we wrap our hook around that first stitch that was skipped, and then we complete that back post treble crochet. This is a little awkward at first, but once you understand where to put the hook, it does get easier. Okay, so here is the stitch, but the second stitch that we skipped, and come around and do that back post treble crochet. And these are actually crossing in front of those last 2 stitches if you're looking at it from the front side, and I'll show that to you in just a minute. So now after we do those first 4 stitches, we return to our skip the next 2 stitches, which are these 2 stitches, and then back post treble in the next 2 stitches, which are here. So I'll go ahead. It does seem like a far reach. Okay, so skip these 2 and back post treble in the next 2. Now working in front of these last 2 stitches, as seen from the front side, we're going to do 2 or 1 back post treble in this stitch, and then 1 in this stitch. Come around behind all of your work, complete that back post treble, and then the one right next to it, which is right here, come around behind just like that. And so we're going to work that all the way around. I'll do it one more time for you. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, which they're going to be leaning in this direction, and we're going to actually back post treble first over the ones that are going to be coming at you from this direction on the back side. So again, skip these 2, back post treble in the next 2 stitches. That's one, and then here's the second one. Working in front of these stitches as seen from the front side, so it's actually behind these stitches, but we're going to I like to say as seen from the front side because people might think that I want you to come around in the front like that, and definitely don't do that because that would just be a mess. So we're going to come around and then work. I'll show you from this direction. Front post treble in those 2 stitches that we skipped, and the second one is right here, and here's another view of it. That is the trickiest part of this. So now we're going to work that all the way around. Skip 2, back post rather, treble on these, and then working in front of those as seen from the front side, back post treble in the 2 stitches skipped. And let me show you quickly how this looks. See, this looks much better from the front side. It really does have a woven look to it. So go ahead and complete that all the way around. Now I'm going to work the last 4 stitches of this round with you, and looking at it with the back side facing us, we're actually going to skip these 2 stitches. This, you should see the turning chain here. We're not going to do anything with that. And the next 2 stitches, or the last 2, are right here. These are the first 2 stitches of the round that we skipped, and those are the 2 we're going to start with. So we skip these 2 stitches and then work back post treble crochets in these 2 stitches. That's 1. And 2. Now working in front of those last 2 stitches as seen from the front side, I'm going to come around and work those 2 stitches that we just skipped. And we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, which is right here. And let's go ahead and turn. So this is the way that Celtic weave should look after those 2 rounds, round 1 and 2 of the Celtic weave. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat round 20 and 21 again. So I'm going to go ahead and start you off. This is with the front side facing for the next round, and then we're going to turn, and then we will work again the round with the back side facing just like I worked. If you need additional stitch support on this particular stitch, please check the video description below, and I will have a link there for you. So I'll go ahead and get you started. This is round number 22, which again is a repeat of round 20. We start with the chain 3 and we skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we begin our front post treble with this stitch and the next stitch. Make sure you see those. Okay, so now after that, working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble over the 2 stitches that the last 2 stitches that we skipped. Remember, because these will be the last 2 stitches worked for the round, and the 2 stitches we're looking for are the ones that are kind of hidden right back here. And the second stitch. And once we do those first 4 stitches, now we're just going to skip 2. Skip next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, which are the ones that are kind of hidden back here, going the opposite direction. And so this is going to be your repeat all the way around, and as you can see, that adds yet another round of this woven effect. So go ahead and work round number 22 and work 23, which again is the same that we just finished working on this other round, and that was with the back side facing. So I'm going to work those 2 rounds and then I'll show you what I have. After working this all the way around, round 23 ends with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, and you know that it is the first stitch when you see this chain 3 connected to it. Now to begin round 24, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and just as a reminder, we did not turn at the end of round 23. You should still have the back side facing. And then what we're going to do for this round, we are going to be increasing. So we're going to work 1 back post double crochet, not treble, but double crochet in 4 stitches. These would be the 4 stitches of the Celtic weave cross when you have 2 plus 2. Okay, so I've worked 4 stitches. Now in between the last stitch and the next stitch, or basically in between where these crosses are all the way around, work 1 double crochet in between those groups. I'll do this again. So 1 back post double crochet in the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I've worked 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches there. And then 1 double crochet in between the space, was in between the last stitch and the next stitch. Okay, this is not worked indirectly, in a stitch directly, but in between stitches, just like that. So go ahead and work that all the way around. I've worked this all the way around. Do not work a double crochet between this last stitch and the turning chain. You don't need to work one there. It's very important. So now we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first double crochet of the round. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn. Okay, I'm going to try to give you a view of the Celtic weave that we just completed. I'm going to give you a better view of this once I get closer to being finished, but I wanted to give you a small assignment right now. So for the next 3 rows, we're going to do something we've already done. We're going to work the low front ridge, rows 1 and 2, and then we're going to work 1 row of the cable stitch, but do not work the row that comes behind. Remember when we worked the single crochets with the backside facing behind the cables? Do not work that row because we're going to actually do that a little differently for this time around. So again, for rounds 25 and 26, work the low front ridge, which is the slip stitch in the front loop only, and then you turn and then you work the single crochet in the back loop remaining, and then you turn and then work row 1 only of this cable stitch, and then I will show you how to work row 2 of the cable stitch. Now I'm at the end of round 27, which is also round 1 of the cable stitch. So I am going to join now with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of that round, and then I'm going to turn my work. Now we're going to work round 28, which is round 2 of the cable stitch, but it is worked differently than the last time we worked this round. We're going to start with a chain 1, and as you recall, the last time we worked 2 single crochets in each of the 2 single crochets behind each cable. Well, this time we're going to only work 2 single crochets in that first single crochet, and then as we pull this cable back, we're going to work only one single crochet there. This is actually the normal way that we would work this stitch. The last time we worked it back along, during the smaller part of the rug here, it was in order to add additional stitches. Well, we're not adding any additional stitches on this round, so we're going to work again. I'll do this for you again. 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then as I pull back this cable to reveal the single crochet, 1 single crochet there, and again 2 single crochets in that first stitch, and as you pull back the cable, 1 single crochet there. So essentially behind each cable you are going to only have 3 single crochets, 3 single crochets, 3 single crochets all the way around the rug. So go ahead and complete that round. At the end of this round, we just join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and just make sure that you do have 3 single crochets behind each cable all the way around. And just for the record, you should still have 279 stitches. So, and also there should be a total of 93 cables all the way around. Now the next 2 rounds that we're going to work are a repeat of the low front ridge rounds 1 and 2, which again, I'll go ahead and start you on this. We're just going to work a slip stitch in the first loop, or the front loop only, just like we've been doing for this stitch, and work that all the way around, join, and then turn, and then you're going to work a single crochet for the second round all the way around. So go ahead and work again a repeat of the low front ridge rounds 1 and 2. Now that we've completed the low front ridge rounds 1 and 2, this is what you should have all the way around. Now we're ready to work the final round, which is round number 31. We're going to start with a chain 1 and single crochet in that first stitch, and now we're going to do a picot, which is a chain 3 and then a slip stitch in the front of the stitch, just like this, and it forms this little bump right there. Once we finish that picot, we're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in the next stitch, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work a picot in the top of this double crochet by chaining 3 and then working a slip stitch in the top of that double crochet, just like that, and then 3 more double crochets in that very same space, 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then work a single crochet and a picot, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in the top there to form that picot. There we go, just like that. Now we are going to skip 3 more stitches again, but I just want to give you a heads up. This is to actually account for the number of stitches all the way around. Once we finish what I'm going to show you here, we're only going to skip 2 in between these stitches. So we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the next stitch we do 3 double crochets again, 1, 2, 3, and the picot, 3 chains, and then slip stitch in the top of that double crochet, and then 3 more double crochets in that same space, 1, 2, and 3. And then after we've After we've done that, now we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and work that single crochet and a picot, 1, 2, 3 chains, and that slip stitch in the top of that stitch like that. Now we have been skipping 3 stitches like I was saying at the beginning here before this first double crochet. That was just to account for the number of stitches in the round. From this point on, you should only need to skip 2 stitches. So skip 2, 1, 2, then work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. What I'm showing you here is going to be what you're going to repeat all the way around. So it's pretty much the same thing that I've already shown you, but I just wanted to show you with the proper number. So skip 2 stitches, work 3 double crochets, picot in the top of that last double crochet, and then 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then again skip 2, 1, 2, and then single crochet with a picot, 1, 2, 3 chains, and the slip stitch in the top of that stitch. So that is going to be your repeat all the way around. I'll say it one more time because I did it 2 different ways to start. So you're going to skip 2 stitches, then you work the 3 double crochets with the picot and 3 double crochets, skip 2 stitches, and then a single crochet with the picot. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and I'll show you the join at the end. After working this all the way around, go ahead and skip the last 2 stitches because this is the first one that we started working in, and go ahead and join with a slip stitch. Let's see if I can find that stitch. There it goes. There, okay. A little tough because we had worked that picot in that stitch. Work a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round and go ahead and give it a chain and a tug, and let's go ahead and cut a nice long strand so that we can easily hide this away with our yarn needle and pull it through. Give it a tug there. And so now we have completed the last round, but there's one very important thing we need to do. We need to hide all of these loose strands, and let me show you how to do that. In order to do that, I'm using my yarn needle. Now this yarn is a bit thick, but I still think it should fit fairly decently. There it goes into our yarn needle. And we're going to want to hide these on the back side of our work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of come down into some of these stitches, and we can run this under one of the rounds just like this. There's a million different ways you can do this, but I just recommend whichever one you choose, just work it into the stitches on the back side. And that should be plenty. And grab my scissors and very carefully cut the thread, but make sure you don't cut the beautiful stitches you just completed. Now I do have several more to hide, but I just wanted to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead, and I did want to say one other thing, and that is, let me show you how much yarn I have left. Concerning the yarn usage, I just wanted to show you that I had this much left of the 5th skein that I used in this project. I ended up not needing 6, so I'm going to adjust that number at the beginning of the video. However, I just wanted to let you know that if you do have 6 skeins of the large, that you may actually use the 6th one. One strategy that you may want to do is to purchase 5 of the large skeins and maybe 1 of the 6-ounce skeins, or the smaller skeins, to go with this, because it's quite normal for you on a project of this nature, especially where a gauge is not so important. It's very easy to use more yarn than what the pattern calls for. So I just wanted to throw that out to you. Again, you can just use 5, but there is a chance that you're going to be running very close at the end for this project. And if you tend to crochet on the larger side, you're definitely going to go into that 6th skein. Okay, but let's show you. I want to show you what we have here. Well, I hope you enjoyed making this Aran circular rug with me today. If you did, please hit that thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. God bless. Bye-bye.